I've yet to meet in the years I've been talking about this and the book and training an adult who takes themselves seriously holding a crayon.
Right.
Even all these years later, that I look for improvement. I use it to process, to get in touch with my innate wisdom, to hold difficult emotions. I have not chosen because a lot of people say, well, have you taken classes? It's like, no, my goal is to actually not improve my skill at all. I joke about being your own proud parent.
Welcome to the Persistence U podcast with Lisbeth. That's you as in university, but we're really much more of a community here. Your host is Lisbeth Meredith. She's an author, speaker, and online teacher. Each week, she'll be delivering amazing stories from survivors and thrivers, all threaded together with a dose of persistence. We're so glad you're listening.
Just got back from a fun little arts and crafts workshop at a local civic group that I've been a part of since I moved across country a few years ago to Chattanooga from Alaska. I bring it up because it's harder to make friends when you're older and you move across country, especially if you're not coupled, if you don't have a job like I didn't at the time, and if you don't have little kids or just family close by. It's a little tricky to make new community. And at this particular place, I just adore the people. They kind of helped start shaping what would become a fun community to be involved in. Usually I see movies with them and we discuss old classic movies. But today I went to a paint by numbers group and just spent time sitting adjacent to other people, a couple I knew and most I did not, just painting by numbers. And it's so incredibly relaxing for the mind to not be able to scroll my phone, to be able to multitask and watch TV and do laundry while I'm working on my personal writing or my classes that I teach. Just focusing on one little thing and having a different part of the brain work and be engaged. I bring this up because I have been so fascinated after I met Susan Hensley, and she talks about the importance of a different kind of journaling, not the kind of journaling or doing the kind of art where people have to worry about your performance, but rather using art and crayons and, frankly, just a very cheap notebook one can get at the dollar store to check in every day with oneself and be able to kind of download what's going on in our brains. So I think you're going to find this conversation with Susan Hensley to be very fascinating. She is now the author of Art-for-Sanity, a constant overachiever whose brain was moving to the next thing on the list, the next accomplishment. And then at some point she realized she had to just stop. Stop with the overachieving, stop identifying her value as being related to getting through a list of things. There had to be a better way to go about her life. So today she's a transformational coach, an author, and a speaker. And she really works hard to help people navigate transitions with joy, creativity, and resilience. And she has been a leadership coach and worked as a corporate executive. Enjoy, and I'll see you at the end. Susan Hensley, thank you so much for being on Persistence U. It's fabulous to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Fabulous to meet you too.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and like where you got on the path that you currently landed at?
Sure. So I think there's always turbulence, and there's things we would never predict. That's what makes it, I think, life and fun, and it's what gives us our character. So I view my career and my life almost as a spiral staircase, meaning I've progressed through a series of 3 careers, and some of those careers have lots of twists and turns, and on the surface, they don't look alike. There was a broadcast journalism career, which was something I'd wanted to do since 6th grade when I won an essay contest and got like a U.S. savings bond and my picture in the paper.
Oh, I love that.
You know how that happens at a certain age. So there was, decade plus in television journalism. And then there were, 25 years, quite honestly, in corporate America as an executive and traveling. It was during that period, probably about 8 years ago now, that I discovered art journaling. And that's what's eventually led me to leave that profession, the corporate job, a few years before I was planning, because I was really paying attention to what was coming up in the art journaling. And then ended up writing a book and doing training and online workshops. And probably the funniest thing about life, and I do a lot of career coaching and executive coaching and life coaching, is when we say we don't want to do something, when someone says, you should do this, and we immediately say no, we need to examine that. I always said I would never write a book. I said I would never want to do a TED Talk. And it was leftover, I would say, fears from previous careers. And now I look around and I see myself having to take in my own advice. So the art journaling, to answer that part, since that's what we're talking about, I was an executive with a big job and was raising a family and doing all the things. And I have a deep perfectionistic tendency and a lot of energy, which is great. But it can be exhausting. And I was getting at a stage where I was getting burned out. And my answer to that was to work harder, not to really step back and examine it. And a colleague of mine, a very talented person who's on my team, had really developed a whole side job as an artist. And I'm going to say a legitimate artist, and she sells her work. I've never viewed myself as, I'm going to use the traditional sense of the word creative here. A few of us were standing around and we were saying, oh, we can't draw or paint at all. And she laughed and she goes, well, come to my house for 2 hours. We'll have some wine, some cheese. I'll teach you guys a few basics. So it's very, very casual. It's a friend's house. I go on a rainy Saturday and there's only 4 or 5 of us there. And I'm sort of in the corner and there's some paints. And I start playing with these paints. And because I don't know anything about paint, it creates a brown mess because I was impatient. But I am having the best time. It feels like my inner 5-year-old has been set free. I love this mostly brown mess I've created. I take it home, this soggy piece of paper. I hang it even on the refrigerator. My husband and son are like, oh, right? I don't even know how much attention they pay, but they're like, okay, whatever. And what I learned because of all the coaching I do is when something lights you up, when you just feel that sense of freedom, I felt just playing with the paint, because my friends over there trying to teach us about the color wheel. And so obviously I must have had 2 contrasting colors that I didn't wait to dry, and I created my brown mess, which I loved, but it was so freeing and fun. And because I have no self-definition as an artist, there was no inner critic. There was no expectation. I didn't go into the day thinking I'm going to discover some hidden talent. So I just kept playing with art. We still had some crayons at home and some things that, as my family had gotten older, I just was playing the way I would journal. And for years, I played in an art journal form, meaning I would never show it to anyone. I wasn't trying to create a picture. I was just playing with art. And I got really curious about that. And as the pandemic came and I doubled down and my anxiety and work became very, very challenging. I was an HR executive at the time for a large global company. And the job is always challenging for people in that job. But during the pandemic, it was particularly difficult and stressful. And art journaling just became such an amazing therapeutic outlet.
And what does that mean, Susan, art journaling?
What it means for me, and the way I've defined it in the book, is in essence sort of playing with art almost in the way you'd write in a journal. You're not creating art to show anyone. It's like 10 minutes. And if I'm in a terrible mood, I might take my crayons and slash or write little screaming faces if I'm in a rage. And that's
Sure.
actually what came up a lot was I'm such an angry person. Look at all these little screaming faces and flames. And I'm using just simple symbols or I'm feeling happy. So it's very much not about creating something you're going to show anyone. It's think of it as just a visual written journal or diary. Except I have found it to be more fun because it really kicks you over to that right side of your brain. Our left side is that deeply analytical side, and the right side is much more connected. And playing with art and color really gets you that immediate stress release and quite honestly, dopamine very fast. I think, which is why I felt so free that first day.
Wow. Did you notice when you started art journaling, when you really got into it, did you notice perfectionism sort of slipping or lessening? Like what was the journey like for you?
Yeah, what was so great about it is I have since researched this and I write a lot about it because I stayed using really inexpensive tools,
Mhm.
crayons, glue sticks, the things that you use as a child. There was never that perfectionist. It didn't slip in. I'll notice when I do my written journaling, some days I'll look at my handwriting or I'll think, you'll think even if that's supposed to be a time. And I started to pay a lot of attention to what it felt like to not have any expectation. It's one of the reasons a dear friend of mine, best friend actually, knew I was doing this. And I was 3, 4 years into it and I loved it. And for my birthday, she bought me a beautiful leather bound journal with these gorgeous paper pages and these really nice watercolors. And at first I thought, oh, how great. And then the first day I went to use it, I realized no, it was actually going to ruin the experience.
Right.
And I shared that with her. I said, I love this
You
this
did.
thought. No,
Right.
because I thought it was really important because, well, ironically, I ended up writing about it eventually. But I said, you know what it made me discover is the moment I got something nicer because the pigment in the watercolor versus like the very inexpensive little Crayola watercolor you get,
Sure.
at Walmart or five and dime, cost you $2 versus what she had gotten me. The difference in quality was immediately apparent. And immediately when I could tell that, and I'm drawing a heart or I'm doing a smiley face, those are the symbols I still use. It felt wasteful, and I
Hmm.
could feel that critic, and that ends up being one of the biggest pieces of advice, and I joke all the time, it's like, I've yet to meet in the years I've been talking about this and the book and training, an adult who takes themselves seriously holding a crayon,
Right.
right?
It would
Just
give me performance anxiety to get that fancy,
yes.
round, beautiful colors. It really would. It would shut down all imagination and suddenly it needed to be amazing.
That's exactly right, and because this was a place of play first and foremost, it wasn't an area of my life that even all these years later that I look for improvement. I use it to process, to get in touch with my innate wisdom, to hold difficult emotions. I have not chosen because a lot of people say, well, have you taken classes? It's like, no, my goal is to actually not improve my skill at all. It is you. I mean, it's very funny. There are many other things that I may want to improve my skill in. This is truly, first and foremost, a place to play, then a place to process that's really safe as well as healthy, right? There are a lot of ways we can process difficult emotions or the difficult emotions erupt from us and drawing little screaming faces or lightning bolts or fire or explosions, whatever symbol a person uses, or even, all sorts of crazy sayings in a safe book is so much healthier than inadvertently stuffing it down, taking it out on someone, or doing some sort of self-destructive behavior, right? Some sort of binge or whatever that is. And
Right.
that's where I got really curious and started doing the research and saw how powerful it was because it's playful and it feels very safe. And we need those places to work through emotions.
Right. And it's accessible too.
Yes,
Very accessible.
completely.
And so even, I can imagine a single mom as an example, like I was with tiny
Yeah.
kids and, just sharing some crayons as opposed to thinking, oh, I have to put money aside to indulge in what feels indulgent in a hobby, which
Yeah.
is not. That sounds like something you could do regularly. And really, it would be an important outlet.
Yeah. So for moms out there, particularly single moms, I've felt in this, it's something sometimes they can do with their kids. They are feeling frustrated. You get your child coloring or children coloring along with you. It's even a way, if you're drawing little screaming faces or lightning bolts or a little body, stick figure laying on the ground because you're exhausted, to even talk if you want to take it further. But it's what I love about it, why I am passionate about sharing it, is it's as low a barrier as I can find for people to participate in. And really, I recommend in starting it, it's really not more than 10 minutes a day, right? This isn't about creating a piece of art. It's just sort of, where am I today? Do I want to draw a tree? Do I want to do some collaging? Do I want to, tear up a circular that came in the mail or something? Old greeting cards are great for, collaging with. I love the Elmer's glue stick. I still use it, sort of a purple thing. It is one of my very favorite things to use. And I don't use a small one. I use like the one for little hand with big, cool.
Wow. And has it helped in other areas of your life regarding perfectionism? Because that is something that can wear a person down. Is that need to achieve, that need to, make it through the list. I struggle with it all the time. There's a list, and how I feel about myself is largely dependent upon how much of that list I made it through for the past 5 days average. So I would imagine this could be a really great way to recalibrate.
It's a terrific way to recalibrate, and it comes in a few forms. One of the forms that I've seen is when you're journaling, you start to recognize how resilient we are. That a bad day or a air quote, failure or something you didn't get done, it's like you are literally turning a page and moving on. And there's a perspective that comes with it. And I think that does come with living life, is today or X may not have gone the way I wanted,
Right.
but so many other things can't. I can turn and like I said, I can turn the page. I can start clean. It also helps in the way that we really undervalue what we are doing. One of the things I've started to build into my life, and I work with clients on, and even in the online training, is the verbal, and I talk out loud. So I'm going to say the verbal acknowledgement or the written acknowledgement. If you go back to that story I told you about, that brown mess I created, I put it on my refrigerator. One of the practices I really teach is being your own proud parent. I find now when I achieve small or big things, or I just even do something, frankly, I don't want to do, which my big thing right now, given my life stage, is lifting any form of weights, and I need to. I now talk to myself every day out loud without shame or fear when I walk out of the gym. I truly say to myself, in the art journaling practice, I joke about being your own proud parent, got me in the habit, because every day when I leave, no matter how much I didn't want to do it when I got there, when I leave, no matter how well I did or didn't do, I say to myself out loud as I'm walking to my car, and I call myself Susie, which is my childhood name, right? You asked me what I wanted to be called. I said Susan. I actually say, Susie, great job. I am proud of you. You didn't want to go, or that was hard, or whatever I felt. And that habit, which is part of art journaling, is really carrying over. And I'm finding it when I have other people do it to be very motivational. It's the things we actually get down on ourselves about, to acknowledge our effort or the internal struggle, right?
Okay.
Today was a hard day. I didn't get done as much as I wanted. It's like, what would a supportive friend say? You'd say, like, it's okay. honey. And
Right.
there's an act of actually speaking those words, or you can write them in an art journal in a crayon that is actually very helpful. That the whole process of the art journal starts with play and then goes to curiosity. And then it's really about that self-compassion or self-encouragement. That helps so much with perfectionism.
I like that. I like that. I've adopted a phrase the last few years. I celebrate my efforts and not the outcomes necessarily.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a good practice for people who do struggle with feeling that they need to be enough and
Mhm.
show up enough and do well enough. So this is great. I love it. And I can see if people are on YouTube, I can see the book behind you, The Art for Your Sanity. You want to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about creating that and.
Sure. It's funny because it takes us back to where we started. I always said, because of the first career in journalism, I would never write a book, and certainly wouldn't thought I would have written one that is both personal journey as well as the brain science and how to. But I did, because I was talking so much about art journaling in my coaching practice and to friends and to anyone who would listen. I realized at this stage in my life, I want to share with people because I think it can be really, really helpful. These are chaotic times, and it's a way, screaming faces, like I said, lightning bolts, arrows, whatever, are a good way to symbolize some of how we feel. So I wrote a book and it came out last summer. And yeah, it's Art for Your Sanity: How to Manage Chaos and Unleash Joy. Because I really feel like we need more joy. I want to acknowledge that we can feel chaotic, we can feel messy, and right, these are not exclusive. We can find ways to also feel joy in the midst of a difficult life period.
Correct.
And it just felt like a way to share and also explain what was going on in our brains and how to get people started.
I like that. That is fantastic. And it looks, the cover is so smart looking and terrific. So, where can people learn more about you? Maybe how to work with you because you do coaching, correct? And some of
I
that's
do.
virtual,
Yeah.
and find out more about your books.
Sure. So you can buy the book anywhere you buy books, including on my website. Easiest way to contact me is susan-hensley.com.
Okay.
There's a free downloadable PDF that you get you started if you want on art journaling. There's also a contact button. I answer all the emails I get and happy to talk to people. There's online training, there's videos to get people started with some exercises, but really the website's the best place.
That just sounds like a lot of fun that's good for your brain.
It is. That's exactly right. It's play in general is so good for us. And it's not hard to access. You're not wasting a day. You're spending 10 minutes on something that's great for your brain, your soul.
Right. That absolutely does make sense to me. So thank you so much. I love that because it's a great way to increase resilience, like you said, during difficult times and frankly, during perfectly wonderful times. So sounds like a great practice.
Here. Yes, no, thank you. It's been a great discussion. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
So have I. Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed and that you'll get your crayons and your notebook out. Today, we also have Kiwi. He was an airman in the Air Force, somebody with his own business, and had the privilege of just being a successful man with a bright future when one motorcycle ride changed all of that. He's not a daredevil, definitely a person who followed all the rules, but what he wasn't expecting was that not everyone does on the road. So he went from a promising, amazing career. Everything that he did relied on his ability to see. And then an accident happened while he was on his motorcycle and he never saw again. So how he was able to turn that around to become an author and someone who's a motivational speaker and who has so much that he has on his bucket list today of things to accomplish, do, and look forward to. It's a pretty exciting interview. So stay with me for Kiwi's episode released also today. I will see you in 2 weeks. And thanks as ever for being here.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's show. Thank you for listening. Now, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a rating and review or share with a friend. And if you really, really liked it, go ahead and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'll see you next week on Persistence U with Lisbeth.